What's up, Liberty Camp? It's excited to be with you guys again. It's another year. Liberty Camp is always the biggest Liberty event that I know of in all of Africa. It's a pretty amazing event. I hope you guys are all excited to be there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan, Taxation is Theft Behrman. As I always have my name on my hat. I ran for president in the United States in 2020, and as a libertarian. It was an awesome race. We did some amazing things. I actually traveled the world on that campaign, not just campaigning in the United States, spreading the message that taxation is theft. And during that campaign, I changed my middle name to Taxation is Theft, primarily for the purpose to show that it's my name, not theirs. Most people were like, you can't just change your name. You have to go to the government and ask them permission. And I said, no, it's my name, not theirs. Why would I need permission to change my own name? So I changed it. It's how I registered on the ballot, and it's how the government recognized me for the purpose of that election. I've done a lot of really interesting things as far as activism. I've really tried to push back against the government and the state who try to control me and my family and my community and my friends. And I've really pushed back. I've tried to inspire a lot of other people to push back as well, because the reality is nobody's just going to give us freedom. It doesn't serve anybody's interest to just run around handing out freedom. The only way we're going to get freedom is if we fight for it and we demand it. And I wanted to talk to you today about some of the challenges facing libertarianism. And it's a global problem. I've seen this in the United States. I've seen it in South America, Australia, Europe, everywhere. And libertarianism is a really hard idea to sell. And it's like that for a few reasons, but I've got some ideas I'll share with you in a minute to help kind of overcome these difficulties. So we have to understand what libertarianism is. A lot of people think it's a political ideology, when in reality it's more of a social ideology. It's more of anti-political ideology in many cases. And so we have to stop thinking about it in terms of regular politics. At the same time, regular politics has shifted into a very social system. They've tried to organize and move forward their agenda socially through social programs. So one of the most difficult things about this is we have this idea that people should be free. People should be independent and liberated. They should be left alone. They shouldn't be controlled by masters, especially masters in government, any masters. So the government starts out pretty small. They start taking money from us and then they grow. They reinvest it in themselves. Now, this is the whole capitalist ideology, right? If you want to grow your community, if you want to invest in your community, you'll start a small business, you'll save a little bit of money, you'll reinvest it in your business, you'll grow, you'll hire more people, you'll produce more goods, you'll serve more people. And so the government has this same sort of growth strategy. But the money that they get is not given to them by people who want to buy their services. It's given to them often by people who are afraid of what's going to happen if they don't give them the money. So the government goes around collecting all this money from everybody. A lot of people don't like it, but they go along with it. And the next thing you know, the government reinvests that and they grow. And as the government grows, they have more collection officers, they have more people running around the country, taking money from different places. So as they grow, they have the ability now to tax certain things, gasoline, imports. They're able to set up border checkpoints where they can tax imports. They're able to set up inspection stations. They're able to hire people to go around to places that are manufacturing food products, beverages, you name it, any product. They can create more people to go around and regulate and tax these people and take more money. And of course, all that money comes back and then they reinvest it. And so they're taking money from us to invest in themselves to grow. And eventually, they just grow and they have so many people and so much power that it becomes really difficult for us to resist and say, no, we don't want to do that. Because the more people they have, the more courts, the more police, the more prisons they have, the more leverage they have over banks to just take our money, the more leverage they have over local government offices to just take our property, and they continue to expand like a cancer. And so this is what we're really fighting against. Now, you have a lot of people who support these systems, and they support them for good reasons. They believe that the government is there to protect us, and the government does do a couple things. We can argue about whether or not they get anything right. There are a lot of people who believe they don't, but some people at least see the benefit in some of the things that they do. Now, most of the things that the government does that are really bad, they usually try to hide it, because even the people in the government, especially the people doing those things, know they're bad, and they don't want the public to see them, because they want to keep the public's opinion of the government good, right? Whether it's the government itself or whether it's individual politicians, right? Individual politicians want to get reelected, so they want everybody to think they're doing good things, when in reality they're doing all kinds of bad things, but they do it in the shadows. They keep it in secret so nobody knows what's really going on. The bigger government grows, the more powerful they become, the more they're able to get away with. The more they're able to do, the more destruction and harm they're able to cause. And so you'll see this all over the world. People in different places will say, hey, why is the price of food going up? Oh, it must be these evil, greedy corporations. And of course, the politicians who cause the price of everything to go up through printing money and all these other systems that they have, those people will point and happily blame the corporations. It's greed, it's greedy corporations. But, not to go off on a tangent, you can ask, well, if those corporations are so greedy, why didn't they jack up the prices 6 months ago instead of 1 month ago? Why did it take them so long to did they not know they could just increase prices? Of course, that's not how things actually work. The government's largely responsible for prices going up through all sorts of taxes and inflation. So this is a system that we're fighting against, but that also causes us to fight against our neighbors, right? These are generally good people who believe and trust in the system because they don't understand how it works. All they know is there are politicians coming to them, promising them amazing things. Now, I've read some pretty interesting books by some socialists and some pretty progressive people. And the picture that they paint is a beautiful picture. You can't look at it and say, that's disgusting. Nobody would want to live in that world, right? They paint the picture of a world where the government takes care of everybody. Everybody treats each other well. There's no crime. You don't have to worry about money because everything's just taken care of and it's all plentiful. And it's really a pretty picture that they paint. But the reality is they don't have the power to do that. They've tried in many cases around the world. Many countries, many people in power have tried to create these governments that create this. And of course, you can't distribute goods and services that you don't actually have. So they try to force production to increase. They try to force people to take on occupations, and this basically results in degradation of quality. It results, in many cases, it results in people lying about how much they're producing, and then underproducing, and then that causing food shortages and famine and everything else. These systems have always failed, and of course everybody will say, well, it wasn't tried right, or somebody sabotaged it and it didn't work. That may be. Maybe there is a perfect way to get this utopia going, but we have to ask then, why hasn't that happened? And so the other problem is, if we set out on this road towards this socialist system, this beautiful socialist utopia that they have, if we set out on this road and it's possible for somebody to sabotage it, but you're telling us also that once we're on this road, we're stuck on this road and we have no choice but to follow everybody else, but there's a way to sabotage it that we can all basically force ourselves into starvation and slavery and tyranny and all these other systems. Why would we go down that road at all? Why wouldn't we just say, hey, you could just leave us alone. We'll be able to provide food for ourselves, even though it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, right? We're still going to have to work for it. And you can also say, if you get out of our way, we'd actually be doing a lot better if you would stop telling us that we can't grow food here, that we can't hunt food here, that we can't provide for ourselves there. If you would stop telling us that we can't survive on our own, then we'd actually be able to thrive. So government, of course, is getting in this way, and they're telling us there's this beautiful system over here, and at the same time saying you don't want to be over here, because they're making things difficult for us. They are making things worse for us where we are, so they can get people to think, oh, we should move over here where the government wants us. Now, of course, if you look back through these socialist systems throughout history, you always find too that the people in charge, the people who make the rules, the people who try to organize everybody to do what they're going to do and be where they're supposed to be in this socialist system, those people, they usually do pretty well. And that's because they're stealing from everybody else. They're taxing everybody, and all of this money goes to the government, and these people who are sitting at the top of the government, telling everybody how to live their lives, controlling everything, doing everything they can imagine, they have all this power to live large on the backs of everybody else. That's the way it always ends up. And again, once that system becomes that big, it's extremely difficult to get out from under it. Now, let's say they were able to build that system, and that system were perfect, right? Sure, it's perfect now. It's a great system. Everyone's happy. What happens when the people who are leading that system get old and die? It's going to happen eventually. It's inevitable, right? Everybody gets old and dies. They're going to be replaced by somebody else. And what if the people that they're replaced by don't have the greatest intentions? If the entire design of the system is that we're all tied together and there is no separation, none of us can say we don't like who's in charge anymore, we want to disassociate from this system, you're back at the problem again. You have this really bad problem. So, but again, it's a very pretty picture that everybody paints. Like it's a very beautiful place that we can go to if we can ever get there. And this is what we're up against, right? So again, this government is sabotaging the place that we are, making things worse, and telling us that if we only follow them to this better place, things are going to be better. Now, what is the idea of libertarianism? Fighting for liberty, fighting for liberation, fighting for freedom. What is it? It's the opposite of this beautiful story that they're trying to sell us. It's the opposite of telling people, hey, we're going to take you to this amazing place and everything's going to be good. It's saying, hey, we're good right here and we'd be doing even better if the government just left us alone. And that's not really a great sales pitch for people. And this is the way that libertarianism has been pitched for as long as I've been involved with the movement. It wasn't until recently that I started seeing a lot of people kind of change the way that they're talking about liberty. And it's no longer about, yes, socialism is bad and, and government is bad and all of this stuff. Instead, and it's not about the mechanics either. I've seen a lot of libertarianism over the years. Activists, they want to go around preaching about how the system works, how everybody's getting screwed, how into the philosophy of capitalism and socialism and all this other stuff. The reality is most people, they don't care about this stuff. And so it's kind of sad, but at the same time, if there were no government and we lived in a libertarian utopia, or at least there were no tyrants and rulers and we lived in a libertarian utopia, there wouldn't be a need for anybody really to talk about it. Most people don't go around talking about World War II, although there are some people who they find it fascinating and they dig into every little aspect of it, right? It's the same thing with libertarianism. We can talk about political philosophy. We can talk about law, legal history. We can talk about so much of this. But the reality is, most people, they don't have the entire educational history that's required to comprehend most of this stuff, and that's not a problem, right? It's not everybody needs to know all this, right? They want to go about their lives. They have their families they want to take care of. They might be teachers or educators and scientists. They don't care about politics and government, and they don't need to. So what we need to do is, if we really want to get libertarianism to grow, is we have to find a way to make it attractive to everybody else, right? These are everybody from the scientists to the teachers to the people who stay who raise their families, who don't work, to the people who work trades, everything from truck drivers to machine operators, people who make clothing, people who grow food, people who work in processing plants. Everybody, all of these people who don't have the time or the inclination to learn about all of these complex subjects, we have to find a way for them to understand that libertarianism is actually good for them. Because this is exactly what the socialists do, right? They'll go around to all these people promising them better wages. The government's going to take care of all these things. The doctors are going to stop ripping them off, and healthcare is going to be free. You're going to get free land. You're going to get free this, free that, free food. They basically promise everybody that, hey, you're not going to have to even work. And they basically sell a benefit to these people. Now, aside from the fact that all of that is a bunch of lies, or maybe it's well-intentioned and they really think they can get there. Whatever the case, the people who are being told about these ideas they don't know whether or not it's going to work. They just know there's somebody in a very nice suit who's telling them, who sounds educated, who sounds like he's able to articulate these wonderful things. He must know what he's talking about. He must be able to deliver these things. And so they're going to support that person, give them their money, support growing the government, support paying new taxes, because eventually we're going to get there. And so we have to do the same thing, except without the lying, right? Or at least, like I said, some of these people might have good intentions, but now that we understand better than them how the world actually works and how we bring about prosperity, we have to tell people how this actually makes things better for them. So, for example, if we have people who are struggling because their wages are too low and their cost of living is too high, we tell them, hey, look, if we cut these taxes, your rent's going to go down. You'll be able to own property. You'll be able to own your own home. If you're not making enough money to support your family, well, if we get rid of these taxes, you're going to be taking home more money. And when you start to frame things like this, people get more excited. And then you can expand from there, because as people have more money and more freedom, and they're not having to work so many hours, they understand, hey, wait a minute, I can actually build a family. And people start actually getting more interested in other things outside of just work and trying to feed themselves, and they want to grow. They want to have a family. They understand that the world is huge and there's an amazing place and there's millions of opportunities and experiences and everything for us to enjoy if we can just get out of the workplace and stop spending so much time there. And we could do that if the taxes were less. We could travel more if the government weren't telling us, hey, these are the borders and you can't cross those lines unless you do certain things and pay certain taxes. There's so much available for people, and you just have to show them those benefits instead of, don't worry about the little intricacies of how the government works. It's good to know all that stuff, and if you enjoy learning about that stuff, it's really great. And if you can learn all this stuff and you can figure out what types of policies or what types of plans you can put in place that would counter all the bad things that are going on, stop them from happening, reverse them, figure out ways to disassemble these machines that are destroying us, these systems that are destroying us. If you understand how they work, you can do that. But in order to get the support that you need from the public to help you do that, you need to show them the benefits. You don't need to show them the mechanics. You don't need to show them, expose to them how the system works. Of course, if people are lying, feel free to show them that. If there are systems that are causing them harm, like it's taking their money and it's spending it on absolutely useless things, feel free to show them that so they understand that this utopian idea is not working, that the money's not going where it's supposed to be, that it's being wasted. But don't focus on too much on the very small nuts and bolts things. Focus on how it's going to make their lives better, and that's really the best thing. And so we have the same problem in the U.S. We have a lot of libertarians who think if we can just reach every libertarian, they're going to vote for us, and we're going to get elected, and we're going to be in charge of the government, and we're going to make everything right because we know how to do everything. The reality is there aren't enough libertarians to make that happen. The only way that that's going to happen is when you get the people who are associated in the other parties, and you've got different parties in your countries, but in the U.S. we've got the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, which is the progressives, and the Republican Party, which are the conservatives. Both of them say they want certain things. They both say when the other party's in charge, both of them are anti-war, but when they're in charge, they're pro-war. They're always fighting some war. Both of these systems, those are the politicians who are doing the bad things. Then you have the voters who support them because they believe that those politicians are eventually going to bring them some good system. But those people who are voting are usually well-intentioned, and they just don't follow the game close enough to know what's really going on. And those people, you need their support. You absolutely have to have their support. So if you're talking to somebody and they don't agree with you, that's fine. Don't start a fight with them. Don't say this is my enemy and we're never going to agree on anything. You can't look at it that way, because ultimately most of these people, and there are some people like that, those are the politicians, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the general public. A lot of them are going to disagree with you because they're repeating what they've heard from these other politicians, these well-funded politicians who are using taxpayer money to get their message out and get their face known. These well-intentioned people, right, they may not agree with you, but you need to stay, you need to connect with them, you need to continue to be their friends, continue to talk with them, continue to show them the benefits of libertarianism and the ways that it can benefit their life. Because if you don't, they're lost. They see you as the enemy, and they're going to believe the government. When the government tells them that you are the enemy, they're going to believe you, because they've seen how you reacted to them. This person was angry. He didn't agree with me, and then he got angry, and then he never wanted to talk to me again. Stay with them. Become their friends, because we can't just get along. We can't just liberate the world by finding all the people who want to be libertarians and get them together in one room and make things happen. We need to convince the rest of the world that liberty and libertarianism is the right way. We need to convince people that tyranny and big government is the wrong way, and we're setting ourselves up if we continue down that path. So, like I said, there are a lot of problems facing libertarians getting this message, getting this ideology out there, but it is something that we can absolutely overcome. We just have to be a little bit smarter about it. So I want to thank you guys again for inviting me out to Liberty Camp. I hope to be there in person. Of course, I say that every year. I really do want to get back out there. I know the camp is an amazing event. I met so many people when I was there a few years ago. I really do want to get back out there, but I hope you guys are able to enjoy the rest of the event, and hopefully I'll see you next year.